They called me worthless, she confessed, but he said, then they never saw the fire you carry. The wind moved slowly across Dustfall Ridge, lifting fine red sand into the air and carrying it over the small frontier town like a silent wave. The town stood alone beneath a wide sky filled with distant stars, its buildings made from old metal plates and faded wood brought from other planets long ago. Travelers rarely stopped here unless they had no other choice. Life on Dustfall Ridge was hard. Water was rationed. Machines broke often, and danger waited beyond the horizon where lawless raiders and abandoned war drones wandered through the desert. Hale arrived just before sunset. He rode a biomechanical horse whose metal joints clicked softly with every step. The animal looked half alive, half machine, its eyes glowing faint blue as it scanned the terrain. Hale himself wore a long coat coated in dust, a wide hat that shadowed his face, and a holstered energy revolver resting at his side. The townspeople knew him. He was not a sheriff, not exactly, but a ranger who helped settlements survive when trouble came. Some called him a cowboy, others called him a problem solver. Hale didn't care what name they used. He stopped near the water tower and dismounted, tying the horse to a rusted rail. The town looked tense. People moved quickly, whispering to each other. Something felt off. Inside the local trading post, voices rose louder than usual. "She's trouble," a miner said. "Nothing but bad luck follows her." "I heard she blew up a whole research colony," another replied. Hale stepped inside quietly, listening more than speaking. Near the back of the room stood a young woman holding a small metal toolkit. Her clothes were worn but clean, and her dark hair was tied loosely behind her neck. She didn't argue with the men accusing her. She just stood there, silent. "You owe me for the repairs," she said softly. One of the miners laughed. "Repairs? The machine barely runs." "It runs better than before," she answered calmly. The man shook his head. "We don't pay worthless help." The word hung in the air, worthless. She didn't react strongly. Instead, she lowered her eyes and closed her toolkit. Hale watched carefully. Most people would have argued or stormed away. She simply accepted the insult and turned toward the door. Hale stepped aside to let her pass. As she walked by, he noticed something unusual, small glowing lines on her wrist, almost hidden beneath her sleeve. Not tattoos. Something else, something technological. Outside, she walked toward a small tent near the edge of town. Hale followed slowly, giving her space. "You let them talk like that," he said after a moment. She stopped but didn't turn around. "It saves time. Doesn't make it true." She hesitated, then spoke quietly. "They called me worthless before, they will again." Hale stepped beside her, leaning against a metal fence. "Maybe they just don't know what they're looking at." She gave a faint, tired smile that vanished quickly. "I don't stay long anywhere," she said. "That works better for everyone." "What's your name?" he asked. She paused before answering, as if unsure whether to share it. Finally, she said, "Lyra." Hale nodded. "I'm Hale." "I know," she said softly. "People talk." He chuckled slightly. "They usually do." A sudden flicker passed through the town lights. The energy grid hummed loudly, then dimmed again. Somewhere an alarm beeped once before shutting off. Lyra's eyes lifted instantly, scanning the rooftops as if she sensed something others couldn't. "You noticed that?" Hale said. "Yes," she replied almost automatically. "The power fluctuations are increasing." "You work with systems?" She hesitated again. "I used to." Before Hale could ask more, another loud noise echoed from the far end of town. A cargo drone crashed into a storage shed, sparks flying everywhere. People shouted and ran toward it. Lyra moved immediately, running toward the damaged drone before anyone else. She knelt beside it, opening a panel with practiced speed. Her fingers moved confidently across exposed wires and glowing circuits. Hale watched with growing interest. This was not the work of someone worthless. "Power feedback loop," she muttered to herself. "Old code, mismatched frequency." Within seconds, the drone powered down safely. The crowd gathered, surprised. One man crossed his arms. "Lucky guess." Lyra didn't respond. She simply closed the panel and stepped away. Hale noticed something else. When she worked, she seemed alive in a way she hadn't moments before. Focus replaced doubt. Later that evening, Hale found her sitting alone near the edge of town, watching the desert horizon. "They called me worthless," she said suddenly, as if continuing a conversation that never ended. Hale sat beside her without speaking. She continued quietly. "Back at the research colony, there was an accident. Energy systems failed. People got hurt. They said it was my fault." "Was it?" Hale asked gently. She shook her head slowly. I don't know, maybe not, but once people decide who you are, it doesn't matter what's true. Hale studied the distant sky before answering. Then they never saw the fire you carry. She turned toward him, surprised. Fire, she asked. The kind that keeps someone trying even when the world says stop, he replied. You fixed that drone faster than anyone I've seen. She looked away again, uncertain. Another power surge flickered through town, stronger this time. Lights went out completely before returning seconds later. Lyra's expression changed. That's not random, she said. Something is waking up. Waking up, Hale repeated. She nodded slowly. There's old technology buried under this region. I felt it when I arrived. It's activating. Hale's instincts sharpened immediately. Trouble rarely arrived alone on frontier worlds. Think it's dangerous? Yes, she said quietly. Very. In the distance, thunder-like vibrations rolled beneath the sand. Neither of them knew it yet, but the buried systems beneath Dustfall Ridge were beginning to awaken, and with them, forces that would test everything Lyra believed about herself. For the first time since arriving, she didn't look like someone ready to leave. She looked like someone standing at the edge of a choice, and Hale, watching her closely, knew one thing for certain. The town might see her as worthless, but he saw something else entirely, something strong. Something burning beneath the surface, waiting to become a flame. The desert night felt heavier than usual. Dustfall Ridge normally grew quiet after sunset, but this night carried a strange tension. The power grid hummed unevenly, and small sparks jumped across old wires like restless lightning. People closed their doors early, whispering about machines acting strangely and lights flickering without reason. Hale stood near the main street, watching the sky. The stars looked calm, but the ground beneath his boots felt alive, vibrating softly. Lyra walked beside him, her eyes moving constantly, studying every flicker of light and every sound. She no longer looked like someone trying to stay invisible. Instead, she looked alert, focused. The energy spikes are getting stronger, she said quietly. You think it's that buried technology? Hale asked. She nodded. Yes, something below us is activating systems one by one. Before Hale could reply, a loud metallic crash echoed from the far end of town. A security drone spun wildly in the air, its lights flashing red as it fired random warning beams into empty space. People screamed and scattered. Hale moved immediately, running toward the drone while pulling his energy revolver. He didn't fire. Instead, he studied its movement, waiting for the right moment. Lyra ran beside him. Don't destroy it, she shouted. I can shut it down. The drone turned toward them, sensors glowing bright. Hale stepped forward, drawing its attention while Lyra slid behind a stack of crates. She opened a small device from her toolkit and connected to the drone's signal. Her fingers moved quickly through holographic controls only she seemed to understand. Just a few seconds, she murmured. The drone fired a warning pulse toward Hale. He rolled aside, sand flying into the air. Take your time, he said calmly, even as danger moved closer. Lyra focused harder, ignoring the noise around her. A soft chime sounded from her device, then the drone froze midair before dropping safely to the ground. Silence returned. The townspeople stared at her, some looked surprised. Others looked uncomfortable, as if they didn't want to admit she had helped. One older woman nodded slightly toward Lyra, a quiet sign of respect. Lyra lowered her eyes again, unsure how to respond to attention. Later, Hale walked with her toward the outskirts where the desert stretched endlessly. You're not just a repair tech, he said. She hesitated. I used to work with advanced energy systems. You keep saying used to. She looked down at her hands. Because I lost that life. The wind moved gently around them. At the colony, she continued slowly, we were trying to create stable energy sources for frontier worlds, clean, powerful systems that could last for centuries. One experiment failed. People were hurt. They said I ignored warning signs. Hale listened without interrupting. I tried to explain, she said, but no one wanted to hear it. After that, I was labeled a risk, a failure. They removed me. And you believed them, Hale said softly. She didn't answer, but her silence confirmed it. A deep rumble interrupted them. The ground shook briefly before settling again. Lyra's head lifted sharply. That's coming from underground? Let's take a look, Hale said. They followed a trail leading beyond town toward an old canyon where broken towers from a forgotten war stood like skeletons against the sky. As they approached, a hidden entrance revealed itself, a metal door partially buried in sand, glowing faintly with newly restored power. Lyra stopped suddenly, fear crossed her face. This technology, it's similar to what we studied at the colony, she whispered. You okay? Hale asked. She nodded slowly. I think so. The door opened automatically as they stepped closer, revealing a descending tunnel filled with dim lights flickering back to life. Inside, ancient machines hummed quietly. Lyra moved cautiously, scanning panels and screens. This is a buried reactor network, she said in awe. Extremely old but powerful. Safe, Hale asked. She hesitated. Not if it keeps activating without control. A sudden sound echoed deeper in the tunnel, footsteps. Hale's hand moved toward his weapon. 3 figures appeared, wearing scavenger armor marked with sharp symbols. Their leader smiled when he saw Lyra. Well, well, he said. The runaway engineer. Lyra froze. You know them? Hale asked quietly. They're scavengers, she whispered. They hunt lost technology. The leader laughed softly. And we finally found the key to unlock this place. He gestured toward Lyra. You're coming with us, he said. Hale stepped forward calmly. She's not going anywhere. The scavengers raised their weapons, but Hale didn't move back. The tension filled the air like a storm waiting to break. Lyra's heart raced. Memories of blame and fear returned, but something else rose with them, the echo of Hale's earlier words. Then they never saw the fire you carry. She looked at the glowing reactor panels around them. Maybe she wasn't worthless. Maybe she just needed to choose who she wanted to be. As the scavengers moved closer, she made a decision. Her hands moved quickly across a nearby console. Lights flashed bright. The tunnel filled with warning alarms as defense systems activated. Hale smiled slightly beneath his hat. Guess the fire's starting to show, he said. And for the first time since her exile, Lyra didn't feel like someone running away. She felt like someone stepping forward. The warning alarms echoed loudly through the underground chamber. Red lights flashed across metal walls as the ancient defense system awakened. Mechanical panels opened along the ceiling, and old security drones dropped slowly into the air, their sensors glowing bright as they scanned for threats. The scavengers stepped back in surprise. What did you do? Their leader shouted at Lyra. She stood near the console, breathing hard but focused. I activated the security protocols, she said. They will remove intruders. The drones turned toward the scavengers, recognizing their weapons as hostile. Energy barriers rose from the floor, separating Hale and Lyra from the attackers. Hale tipped his hat slightly, impressed. Not bad. Lyra didn't smile. She kept watching the system carefully. This place is unstable, she said. I don't fully understand it yet. The scavenger leader snarled. You think you can stop us with old machines? He signaled his team. They fired toward the drones, energy bolts lighting up the chamber. Some drones fell, but more emerged from hidden compartments. Hale stepped beside Lyra, watching the battle calmly. We should move, he said. They won't give up easily, she nodded. Follow me. They ran deeper into the facility, passing long corridors filled with dormant equipment. Lights turned on automatically as they moved, recognizing Lyra's interface signal. It felt as if the ancient structure accepted her presence. Behind them, distant explosions echoed. Hale glanced back. They're still coming. Yes, Lyra said quietly. And they will reach the core if we don't stop them. They entered a wide chamber filled with tall energy pillars glowing softly. In the center stood a massive reactor core, surrounded by circular platforms and floating holographic symbols. Lyra slowed, staring at it. It's beautiful, she whispered. The energy moved smoothly inside the reactor, powerful yet calm like a sleeping giant. Hale watched her expression change. She looked both amazed and afraid. This reminds you of your old work, he said. Yes, she answered. But this system is older, more advanced. She walked toward the main console slowly, studying the symbols. The reactor is waking up because of external interference, she said. Someone started a chain reaction. The scavengers? Hale asked. Maybe. Or something automatic, she replied. Suddenly, loud footsteps approached from behind. The scavenger leader entered the chamber with 2 remaining followers. You always were clever, he said to Lyra, but you still run from your own power. Hale stepped forward, placing himself between them. The leader laughed. You don't understand who she is, he said. She destroyed an entire colony. Lyra's hands trembled slightly. Hale glanced at her but didn't ask questions. I didn't destroy it, she said softly. But everyone thinks you did, the leader replied. That's why you hide, that's why you doubt yourself. His words cut deep. For a moment the room felt smaller, heavier. Memories returned, alarms, accusations, people turning away. The leader continued. Help us control this reactor. With your knowledge, we can sell its power to the highest bidder. You won't be worthless anymore. Hale's voice stayed calm. Sounds like a bad deal, the leader smirked. Frontier Ranger, you don't understand opportunity. Lyra closed her eyes briefly. She remembered Hale's words again. They never saw the fire you carry. Slowly, she stepped forward. I won't help you, she said. The leader's smile faded. Then you'll watch this place burn. He activated a device on his arm. The reactor's energy surged violently, shaking the chamber. Warning alarms screamed louder. Lyra's eyes widened. He triggered an overload. The energy pillars flickered wildly, sending waves of heat across the room. Hale grabbed her arm. Can you stop it? I don't know, she admitted. For a moment, fear almost froze her. What if she failed again? What if everyone was right about her? The reactor pulsed brighter and cracks formed in nearby panels. Hale's voice cut through her thoughts. You don't need to know everything. Just start, she looked at him. He wasn't afraid. He trusted her. Taking a deep breath, she moved to the console and began working quickly. Holographic screens appeared around her, displaying complex energy patterns. Her fingers moved faster than before, confidence slowly replacing doubt. She adjusted frequency levels, redirected energy flow, and activated cooling systems. The scavenger leader tried to stop her, firing toward the console. Hale stepped forward instantly, deflecting shots and forcing the attackers back. You focus on saving us, he said calmly. I'll handle them. Lyra nodded, fully absorbed in the system. The reactor resisted her commands at first, but she adapted quickly, thinking creatively instead of following old protocols. Slowly, the energy surge stabilized. The violent shaking lessened. The leader realized he was losing control. No, he shouted. Hale disarmed him with a precise shot, sending the weapon sliding across the floor. Silence returned gradually. The reactor's glow softened again. Lyra stepped back, breathing heavily. Sweat covered her forehead, but her eyes shone with new strength. I did it, she whispered. Hale smiled slightly. Told you? Security drones entered the chamber, surrounding the defeated scavengers. Lyra stared at the reactor, feeling something shift inside her. For the first time, she didn't feel like a failure standing in front of powerful technology. She felt capable. Outside, the desert wind continued to move across Dustfall Ridge, unaware that deep below, a woman once called worthless had begun to rediscover who she truly was. But the system wasn't fully stable yet. And both Hale and Lyra knew that the final challenge was still waiting ahead. The reactor chamber grew quiet after the fight, but the silence did not feel peaceful. Soft warning sounds continued to echo through the underground facility. Lights flickered between steady and unstable, as if the ancient system was unsure whether to sleep again or fully awaken. Lyra stood still, watching the glowing core. It's not finished, she said softly. Hale adjusted his hat and looked around carefully. The captured scavengers were secured by security drones, but the energy inside the reactor moved in uneven waves. What's wrong? He asked. She walked slowly toward the main console again. Holographic symbols floated around her, shifting constantly. The overload stopped, she explained, but the system is trying to restart itself. If it activates fully without proper control, it could release too much energy. Bad for the town? Hale asked. Bad for everything within hundreds of miles, she answered quietly. The weight of her words filled the chamber. Lyra hesitated, staring at the controls. Fear returned slowly, whispering in her mind. This was exactly the kind of situation she had failed to control before. The memory of her past colony flashed again, alarms, accusations, people turning away. Her hands trembled slightly. Hale noticed immediately. You don't have to rush, he said calmly. She shook her head. If I wait too long, it will become worse. He stepped beside her, silent but steady. You're not alone this time, he said. Those simple words grounded her. She nodded and began working again. The system responded to her touch, panels lighting up one by one. Data streams flowed across holographic displays. She analyzed energy flow, searching for a stable balance point. Above them, distant rumbling sounded again. What's that? Hale asked. Lyra looked up. The reactor is sending power back to surface systems, defense towers, communication arrays, maybe even old weapons. Sounds like we need to finish fast, he said. She focused harder, adjusting frequencies carefully. The reactor resisted, almost like it had its own will. Each correction created another imbalance somewhere else. It's too complex, she murmured. Hale leaned against the console quietly. Then stopped trying to control all of it. She glanced at him. What do you mean? You told me earlier you followed strict rules at the colony, he said. Maybe this system needs something different, she thought about his words. At the colony, she had followed protocols perfectly, and still everything had gone wrong. Maybe she needed to trust her instincts instead of old expectations. Taking a deep breath, she changed her approach. Instead of forcing the reactor into fixed patterns, she allowed energy to flow naturally, guiding it gently rather than commanding it. The holographic display shifted colors. Energy waves began to smooth out. It's working, she whispered. Outside the chamber, heavy footsteps approached again. Another group of scavengers had arrived, drawn by the reactor's power signals. Their leader from before shouted angrily from behind security barriers. You can't keep that power for yourself, he yelled. Hale turned calmly toward the noise. I'll make sure they don't interrupt, he said. He stepped away, standing between Lyra and the approaching threat. Lyra barely noticed. She was fully focused now, moving with confidence she had never felt before. Each movement felt natural, like the system and her mind were working together. The reactor's glow changed from harsh white to a calm golden light. The shaking stopped. Slowly, the warning alarms faded away. Silence filled the chamber again, real silence this time. Lyra exhaled slowly. I stabilized it, she said. Hale turned back toward her, smiling slightly. Never doubted it. She laughed softly, surprised by the sound herself. For the first time since her exile, she didn't feel like she was proving someone wrong. She felt like she was simply being herself. Security drones escorted the remaining scavengers away. The threat was over. Later, as morning light touched the desert, Hale and Lyra stood at the entrance of the underground facility. Dustfall Ridge looked peaceful again, the town waking slowly as sunlight spread across the red sand. News of what happened spread quickly. The same people who once ignored her now watched with respect. Some thanked her quietly. Others nodded when she passed. Lyra felt unsure how to respond to their changed attitudes. They see you differently now, Hale said. I don't know if that matters, she replied. What matters then? He asked. She looked at the horizon. That I see myself differently. Hale smiled slightly. The wind moved gently across the desert, carrying away old doubts like drifting sand. Will you stay? He asked after a moment. Lyra thought carefully. For so long, she had moved from place to place, never believing she belonged anywhere. Now, for the first time, staying didn't feel like a trap. It felt like a choice. Yes, she said softly. I think I will. Hale nodded. Dustfall Ridge could use someone who sees fire where others see nothing. She looked at him, remembering the moment he first said those words. They called me worthless, she said quietly. And now, he asked. She smiled gently, eyes reflecting the rising sun. Now I know they never saw the fire I carry. The desert stretched endlessly before them, full of unknown roads and new possibilities. And as the morning light grew brighter, Lyra stepped forward not as someone running from her past, but as someone ready to shape her future. A woman who had finally learned that strength was not about never falling, but about rising again with courage. Beside her stood a cowboy who had seen her true worth long before she could see it herself. Together, they walked back toward the town, ready for whatever new stories the frontier would bring.